Okay, and then look.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. So, the first question is oval to road course. How does your process change?
Honestly, when I started on oval, I feel like I had a lot of tunnel vision. Like when you start out on oval, everything's happening so quick, and especially as a young driver, like it's hard to think big picture.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get on a road course and things get strung out, and all of a sudden you're really having to focus on corner entries and apexes and seeing every corner differently, that goes into a play when you come back to ovals, because then all of a sudden you get to an oval and you realize both ends aren't exactly the same, and then you start thinking big picture a lot more. And honestly, for me, it slowed my thought process down, so that tunnel vision went away, and the road courses teach you a lot more of a eyes up discipline versus the circle tracks. You're seeing right off the front of the car a lot of the time, and when you first start out. And I think going back and forth, yes, oval is a little bit more of just like hungry what's right in front of you, but you still can carry over a lot of aspects from road racing, like the bigger picture, eyes up, just being in a more thinking ahead state of mind. And I think it made me better all around. But from one to the other, I think you go from you're battling drivers on a circle track. Yes, you have to mind your car and things, but I think road course racing is a lot more you're racing the track, and the other guys out there are just doing the same thing, and it's kind of like a dang sled race or the Iditarod. I mean, you're all in the same race, but when you pass each other, it's just because one's running their own race separately from the other a little bit better, and you still got to make it to the end, even if you're the fastest guy out there.
How does the muscle memory change from like an oval to a road course? Because when Max is, he's running the ovals, he gets into a groove and it's instinct kicks
Yes.
in. How consciously are you thinking about each corner versus is it that same kind of groove you get in?
So the thing that's a little different about the muscle memory when it comes to a road course, because you have so many different places for runs to develop, you have drafting on long straightaways coming into a play, you got brake fade now coming in because you're getting so much heat in the car, things that just you typically wouldn't be exposed to in a circle track race. You get thrown out of your rhythm much easier on a road course, because one small difference from when you're running out there by yourself to now running in a pack. I mean, there's times running in the stock car, we could be running bumper to bumper down the straightaways, and all of a sudden now I got to brake 150 feet earlier because we're going that much faster. So to go off of instinct can be really hard on a road course. Now, don't get me wrong, there's guys that have a feel for it in certain places, especially we don't have brake markers like Sonoma. And I've been there long enough to get a good feel for where those limits are. And I think that's what played a role in us getting to the end of the race versus some of the faster guys can go out there and hammer on a car, but it falls off quicker. I think getting in your rhythm is a completely different animal on a circle track than in a road course. It's a little more of a balance than it is a rhythm. You got to find when to give and take, because you take all race long, you're not finishing. So
yeah. Sonoma, tell me about Sonoma, why it's special. And I know you talked about this before with me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, starting from the beginning, I don't know how old I was, but from a really young age, Sonoma being the closest NASCAR track at the time to my family, being from Southwest Washington, it was a big deal for us when they came to Sonoma. They as a NASCAR, and so every year, biggest thing was my grandma, my dad, and I would venture down here, and as long as we were free, we'd be here for the whole weekend and watch the cup races and the K&N races at the time, and now ARCA, and just it became such a big event in my life, because growing up, just really my parents were tight on money with the business just getting started, and we weren't going on much vacation because being the youngest of 7, there's a lot of expenses. So that was like our one getaway every year that we knew was going to be there, that we could look forward to, and to spend that time with my grandma and grandpa was huge. And I mean, there was times I remember just sitting there with my grandma, and she'd be all smiling. I'm like, what are you like? What's so funny? And she's like, that's gonna be you out there someday. And I'm okay, maybe, I'm sure, Grandma, but she fully meant it. I mean, before we ever even started racing. And so when we started racing, it was still something that didn't go away. I mean, we still went down there every year, even when I was in baby grands and the late model stuff. And through the whole process, she was my biggest fan. My grandma was, and would always say, like, that's going to be you out there someday. That's going to be you. And, kept saying, okay, maybe. At the time, you don't even think it's possible. And when she got sick, unfortunately, was diagnosed with colon cancer. It went downhill quick, and we never got the chance to go back to Sonoma. But when it was coming up just a couple months away, she ended up passing in May, and that was just a month before Sonoma. I was working in my shop getting a car ready for a baby grand race, and she basically told me we had a ring camera in there, and she popped up and said, "Hey, Bubba, what are you doing?" Popped out from the race car. I was like, "Hello?" It was Grandma, and I was like, I realized who it was, and I was like, "What are you doing, Grandma?" She's like, "I snuck it on your dad's phone." She was listening to me work on the race car, and she was like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm getting the car ready for this weekend." She said, "Well, save me a seat." And I just remember this conversation clear as day, and I said, "Grandma, you can't go to the track this weekend." I mean, at this point, she was on hospice, maybe a week left. I mean, it was bad, and she just clear as day. She told me, she's like, "No, I don't mean this weekend, silly." She said, "When I'm gone, find a way to save me a seat in the car, because I want to be there every lap of every step of the way for every lap, and I just want to see the day you make it, and take me for a lap around Sonoma, because I've always wanted to do that." And I mean, my heart sunk. You don't even know what to say in those moments. I just, okay, Grandma, I love you. And we went on to that race weekend. We ended up winning, I think, the trophy dash, got a trophy, and first thing we did that night was just run straight home from the track to her place. And I walked up to her room, gave her that trophy, and I mean, that right there, I was talking to my grandma, that for a while she was going in and out of, kind of saying things that didn't make sense, and that was the last conversation I could see in her eyes. My grandma was there. I gave her that trophy. She said, "I love you." I was in the room by myself, just with her. She said, "I love you. You're doing an amazing job." I gave her a kiss, and I walked out, and my sister, she was kind of doing the caretaking. She walked in behind me, and I was only a few steps down the hallway before I heard her call my name. And she said, "Bubba." And I said, "What's that?" And she said, Was grandma awake when you were in here?" I said, "She's not?" And she's like, "No, she's asleep." And she never woke back up. That was the last time she ever said anything to anyone, and the next day she was gone. So, for us to come back carrying, a piece of her with us every step of the way since then, she's been there for every lap. Running this race at Sonoma is the only real chance I have to give her what, she asked me for, which, being my grandma and me being young when she passed, there wasn't many chances to do that. And not only for myself, but my dad and the rest of the family. I know that means more than anything racing can give us. So it goes deep.
Well, this next question is not going to be anywhere near as powerful.
No, you're good.
Thank you for opening up on that.
Of course.
That's so cool, dude. Difference between ARCA and late model. We've gone from Tri-Cities in a late model, late model,
absolutely,
to Portland in an ARCA, to here in an ARCA. What's the jump?
So, you want to talk about discipline. Disciplines get much different. You can talk about oval to road course. Late model to ARCA couldn't be any more different. It's nuts, really. I mean, I tried to explain it to people, but late models, you drive so on the edge. I mean, we did the Beyond the Edge title, or and that really does describe late models in a sentence, because you are driving to the point beyond the edge, and you're waiting for that moment to come, and until then, you're not driving it hard enough. An ARCA car, yes, you do drive them on an edge, but the edge is to where the car gives out before you do. And in a late model, I feel like the limitation comes to driver, really, because it's how free can you get that car around the track as a driver. And In an ARCA car, you get the car underneath you. They have 13-inch slicks. I mean, you got more grip than you can ask for. But eventually, that tire becomes a shear point and goes away, and your car's shoving up the track. Guys call it a boat all the time, dump truck, whatever you want to call it. ARCA cars are tanks compared to a late model, and they take a different discipline on getting them to work for you than a late model. I feel like a late model, you kind of just, it's like driving as a teenager. You just beat the hell out of it and make that thing do what you want it to, and it looks rough and it sounds rough, but it works. An ARCA car is like driving a Cadillac fast. You try to push it, it doesn't work. You take it nice and easy, and all of a sudden you get all the ride quality out of it. So smooth is fast, you know, and I think you got to think big picture. But the other thing is just the competition. The competition is stiff, but I think everyone's got enough respect out there for one another to use each other up the most they can without taking too much in most cases. Now, you do have your oddballs here and there, but I just think that the competition level and level of respect goes up. You see times where it doesn't, and I've seen times in late models where I've been blown away by the level of respect. I mean, racing at Tri-Cities, I don't know how many cars we passed or were next to. Not one of them laid a real fender on us. I mean, it was clean, hard, fun racing. But I just think when you're racing the same guys week after week or month after month in ARCA, and you know what everyone's had to do to get there, and, you know, some may say it's not very much, some they've had to give in their whole life for it. Everyone just knows what it takes to get there, and I think they just know that there's a little bit more on the line than what's right in front of you, and that plays a big role into how guys race. So it's different, but I think a lot carries over from one to the other. They definitely have their separation.
Sure.
Yeah.
Tell me about your favorite corners at this track.
Ooh.
If you had to pick two.
Okay, if I had to pick two. Oh, I'm trying to think. Sonoma, okay, Sonoma's fun for a whole bunch of different reasons. But I feel like when you get to feel the elevation change or those cool curb moments, it's so hard to pick two. I feel like they're two of the most underrated corners, but two of my favorite would be in the upper section, 3A and 3B, which is a downhill, high load corner, highest load on the track. It quickly dips and goes back up to the left. The amount of compression you feel in the seat, and if you hit it just right, catch the curb, get that thing rotated, and then set up for 3B to launch off of there correctly, it is the most, like, thrill-filled dance that, you know, you could ever experience, because you just know when you did it right. And like I said, 3 you're coming into, and it's like you're jumping into a hole. You dip at the bottom. You feel your feet, it feels like your brain falls to the floor from the compression. You hit the curb, knocks the car sideways, and as you come up out of it, you got to drive blindly over a hill and hope nobody's sitting on the other side as you're full throttle and grabbing a gear in the middle of it. So that is as Sonoma gets. Now you get the big hill climb, which is awesome. In the ARCA cars, it's kind of off throttle, and you're just kind of managing it up the hill. And it gets harder and harder through the day to do it. The S's are so fun because, again, it's just this flow state that you get into. But the small packed moment that 3A, 3B creates, where it just has a little bit of everything in it, is, in my opinion, the most fun part, you know, on the track. If you're by yourself, go through there side by side, your opinion might change.
Explain to me how your family, your mom and dad, brother up there,
right,
have made you better. How they've helped you to continue to try to achieve more.
I feel like it's an odd way of answering this, but I would say perspective is the first thing that comes to mind. Having my family around, nobody's seen more of this journey than them, obviously. And when I was young, they saw the passion and how much I wanted to be involved in it but couldn't for so long. And now that we are here, they are so good at pacing me and making me take that step back and just kind of take in the bigger picture and capture moments, just realizing really where we are now and seeing it through the eyes of that 10-year-old me that would have appreciated it so much. I think without taking the time to kind of just do that and check yourself and really say, wow, this is incredible to be here, I think you lose a portion of that hunger, like I was saying, that motivation that you would have at that age. And, they do it without even realizing. I mean, Andy, coming to the races with us, there's times where I see him, like you guys walk into the pits and being like, oh my God, this is Sonoma. And you see the big sign up there in the pit road and all the cars out. And I'm like kind of thinking to myself, like, I kind of forget how cool this is, to other people. And once you do it enough, it does start to get normal, which sucks to say. But at some point, it's got to, or you can't focus on what you need to do. But if you don't stop and take those moments to remind yourself really of where you are, what you've done to get there, how important it is to you and has been to you your whole life, I think you lose a little bit of the empowerment that you had that got you there, that whatever it is you call it, that drive that made you who you are to be where you are. So I think that's the biggest thing that they've done for me, is just they pace me. When I get ahead of myself and just get too in my own head or too focused and not living enough life, they pull the leash and remind me to just breathe.
When you crossed the finish line, the first thing you said on the radio was, "Thank you, Mom and Dad, for letting me do this."
Yeah.
Seriously, I love you guys.
Yeah.
Take me through crossing the line. Take me through that emotion.
Well, you got to talk about getting to the start. The finish, anyways, was nuts. I know I had Brandon Jones behind me. I'm following Isabella Robusto, so you got Chevy Development behind you, Toyota Racing Development in front of you, and an Eric Jr. Racing, nobody knows who he is, sandwich in between. And all I can think is, which one of these guys is going to ruin this for me, And so I'm going into 11. It's the last corner. They're racing like hell in front of me, and I know things are going to go wrong. So I tucked up on that wall into 11, and I just broke as deep and straight as hard as I could, and I said to myself in my head, either Brandon's going around me or he's moving me. I don't care. And if he moves me, I'm going through Isabella because I'm finishing this race. And so one car spins, Isabella makes it through. I see Brandon go to my outside, and I'm like, all right, well, I'll use him to turn if I have to, but we all bounce off each other, make it through the corner. It was nuts. But the second I grabbed second gear and am on that last drive to the start finish, I can't tell you the amount of relief. Like, coming to that final green, white, checkered, I was so sick. Just thinking about all the things that could go wrong and ruin this moment that had gone so well up to that time. And to think we picked up a spot from it, I didn't know what to think. It was the biggest relief I've felt in so long. And I felt similar when we won after my grandma passed. The first race she was gone, we won up at South Sound. It was the 6th of July, 2021. Won the West Roads weekend in the Baby Grands. And I'll remember that all forever, just because it meant so much. But coming down the back straightaway, if you go back and watch that video, and I'll send it to you, you can see just the weight fall from my shoulders in that car, because that's the moment I knew we did it. And I have not felt that way since in a car until crossing the start finish. I know we didn't win, but it felt the exact same way. Just like, it felt so good to get something for all those people that made it possible. The reason coming across that line, all I can think is thank you, thank you, thank you. Is the whole time coming to the line, I'm thinking, don't ruin this for them, don't ruin this for them, because that's all I wanted, was to give all the people that made it possible a physical result, to go, this is why we work so hard. And yeah, I burst. I melted in the seat, and I know, like, if I'm excited, I can't even imagine what they're thinking up there. And so, of course, like, I wish I could see them, but all I can do is talk to them. So I'm just hoping they're on the radio, and I'm just saying the first thing that comes to mind, which is just thank you, because when I started this, it was because of them, and I'm still doing it because of them. Now, don't get me wrong, we have partners, but I still would not be here if it wasn't for them. Yeah, they're just the first people that come to mind every time. And there's my grandmother, my siblings, Dolores, my team, all those guys are right there, right behind them. But the first people that, the first faces I see in my mind when I think of this journey is them. And so it's hard not to thank them,
We're sitting there in qualifying.
Yeah.
All the cars are driving around you. You're on jacks. What's in your head?
I think last year me would have been a lot more frustrated. I'll start with saying that. It's kind of like the same thing with Portland after we wrecked. You sit there and you have this moment where you can be like, okay, I can get really upset, or I can just kind of take the next step. And I think when we started, I've had moments where I've gotten really upset, and I don't throw fits to other people, but I've definitely thrown fits to myself or beat up on myself. And that's, being self-critical, I think, is how you get better in a lot of ways. But in those moments, it kind of was the biggest thing, the deciding factor in it, I guess you could say, was I didn't think being upset was going to get me anything. So when I'm watching all those cars out there, I'm thinking to myself, okay, my job's getting harder and harder and harder, and I'm watching this, and now all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I might get a lap in, and we might just get to, we've already, not only do we have issues in practice, we just threw the kitchen sink at it after that for setup changes, and I have no clue what the car is going to feel like. And I'm thinking, okay, at least I'll get a chance to feel it in qualifying. Okay, now there's 30 seconds left, and I don't get to do that anymore. Okay, the session's done. Am I even in the race? And all I could think was, okay, we're in the race. Now you just move on. And that's exactly, is like you had no time to freak out, to worry, to throw a fit. It was what it was. I already knew, okay, our job's as hard as it can be now, so we just got to focus on getting the car ready. And we just jumped straight into that. So it wasn't as big of a deal to me as it was, say, to I know my parents were kind of freaking out watching that, because we've said over and over again, if we could just find a way to figure out whatever our bad luck has been in qualifying, we'll be good. That was our goal coming down here this weekend, was just qualify well. Well, that didn't work. So, whatever. We start from the back, and I think the guys know what to say to get me in the right mindset of just, you got to be hungry from the get-go. You can't, you can't give. You got to be a Richard or whatever, Kyle was saying. But, we get his point. The biggest thing is you just can't waste time. You got to go forward. And I know they know me enough that no matter what they say, I'm still going to run my own race. Nobody's ever going to tell me how to drive the car, but you can sure put a mindset in my head. And I've had that through a bunch of races. After, breaking the transmission last year in Sonoma, Bill said, hey, use the brakes this time, not the transmission, to slow down, and that stuck with me all race long. I had to tell myself over and over again to mindfully get the car to the end of the race. And so watching all those cars go, I knew we had to move on and set ourselves up to go from the back.
Describe the feeling to me of being in the back and making all those overtakes. Each time you're passing someone, is each pass filled with, are you running off adrenaline and focus, or are you in a groove with each one? How does it feel to just weave through people? You were flying by everybody at the start of that race.
Honestly, if just being brutally honest, when we were at Tri-Cities, I felt like I took it one at a time. Everyone felt like okay, that's another one. On to the next. Okay, this time it was simply so many cars. It was like a kid with a piece of candy out in front of him. I saw the lead pack up here, and anything between point A and point B, I almost just looked through. I don't remember all the passes, if I'm going to be honest with you. It was literally just catch them, do what you have to. Catch them, do what you have to. Don't waste time, we got to go. Don't waste time, we got to go. And there was times where, a couple guys pinched us, or a couple guys shown that, okay, you're going to have to work a little harder. And those are the ones I remember, because I had to stop for a second, figure out where I was better than them, set it up, then go. And on to the next. And so you kind of get, like you said, so focused and so, I don't know, in a rhythm, I guess. You're just, it's hard to describe, but it felt really good. to pass so many cars so quick, but I honestly looked up, and when we were inside the top 10, I didn't even know I passed that many cars, because Sonoma is so hard to pass in certain aspects that, you know, and you're so deep in the pack, you got to work so hard. You never get a moment to like really just like settle in and take a deep breath and figure out what's going on. So you start 30th. By the time you get a chance to look up and realize you're 10th, and it's kind of an odd way of things going. But you know, for us, I think I was just so motivated on getting forward, but also taking care of the car. I was just letting other guys break, other guys make mistakes, and I was just trying to pretty much run in my own little bubble and make sure that nobody breaks that bubble. And meanwhile, that bubble just kept working through the field while everyone was making their mistakes, and my main focus was just minimizing error. As a rookie, I think it's pretty easy to put yourself in a situation where your race ends quickly on your own doing. And so I just wanted to make sure that I didn't do that.
You've touched on a couple of the last things I wanted to ask you already, so this is the last question. You are barreling towards the start-finish line at the end of that race. You told me that you were nervous. You just wanted to get to the end and have it be over, and then the yellow flag comes out.
Yeah.
Did you see that as an opportunity? Did you see that as oh shit,
yeah,
we're in trouble, oh God, now we've got to bunch everybody up and hope that this doesn't go wrong? Tell me what you were feeling when that flag came out.
So with about 10 to go, the team starts coming on the radio, and they start counting down every lap. 10 more for me, buddy. All right, I need 9 more perfect laps. All right, I need 8 more. And I swear, I thought about coming on that radio and telling them, do not tell me another lap until it's the white flag, because I am about to throw up from the pressure, you know what I mean? Because Brandon Jones was behind us. I mean, he's a great driver, runs an Xfinity Series. Got to work for him at Portland, get to know him a little bit. Hungry dude, just wants to go out there and do well. I know, even though he's met me just the week before, he's not going to give an inch when he gets to me. So if he catches me, that's it, being so close to the end. So I'm in this mindset of just run. And they're telling me 7 seconds back. Okay, now he's 3 seconds back. I need 3 more laps, buddy. And I'm thinking to myself, man, this is going to be close. Just get to the end. Second that yellow flag comes out, I just was like, of course. Why not? Why not make today harder than it already has been? And, you know, so we rack back up, and the entire time under yellow flag, just pacing, I am like probably not doing anything I should be, not looking at the gauges, not controlling my switches. All I'm thinking is looking at that car. How are they going to ruin this? Looking at the guy in my mirror. How is he going to ruin this? Now we go up the hill. What am I going to do to make sure they don't ruin this for me? And no matter what I thought, I was like, yep, somebody's going to ruin this. It's just almost like you're just driving into a storm that you know is going to suck, and you just have to figure your way out. So going up the hill, it was literally that mindset. I had a moment where I kind of, like, coming up the hill, I cracked the throttle like you do every lap to go up it, and then I said, like, almost just like one of those, you know, if you can't beat them, join them moments. I said, all right, screw it, we're in the middle of this. And I hammered the thing back down and drove up to the car in front of me, and we got to the top of the hill. I was carrying way too much speed. I knew the guy behind me was going to lay into me, so I squared up, hit the brake as hard as I could, and fell pop, pop, pop from behind, and I get shoved into Isabella. She's on the outside, the 55, and the only reason I remember it is I remember seeing her door outside my window as I slammed into it, and I just, again, you're already in it, might as well keep just playing the game. Picked up the throttle. 8 tires turn more than, better than 4. So I picked that thing up, rode her door all the way out, grabbed what gear I could, and took off. And like you said, coming across the line, I didn't know if we picked up a spot, lost a spot. All I wanted to do was make sure that damn thing was facing the right direction for that lap, and just getting what I could. Because earlier in the day, there was moments where when I cracked that throttle going up the hill, I just kind of went up there with the mindset of let's just get through the corner. This time I just, we're here. It's going to get messed up anyways. I might as well just make it a show. And so I just played the game, and I think it actually paid off because I quit thinking so hard and just said, screw it, let's just have some fun. So, yeah, it was definitely, I had got to play a little NASCAR, a little rubbing his racing, and no, it was fun. It's exactly what NASCAR should be. So, yeah.
Anything else you want to say? What's on your mind?
All I can think is like, I hope we get the chance to do this again. It's hard to say, but like, as every year goes by, every race we run, it's cool because it feels like you're gaining that experience and you just took another opportunity forward and you just opened another new door. But and maybe this is the wrong mindset, but every time one of those doors opens, I kind of think it is one less door I get to walk through, if that makes sense. And for me, I just kind of know that, like, realistically, I'm on a clock. And if I don't make enough out of the opportunity quick enough, if I don't get to where we need to quick enough, the door will eventually close. And that's solely funding based. So, my thought is like, this weekend gave me a glimpse of what the rest of my life could be if it was perfect. Family around, enjoying racing, just getting to live my dream. I think I, just said that on the radio, like, thank you for letting me live my dream, or whatever I said, but that was just purely the 10-year-old speaking up from my gut, just saying, like, this is what anyone could have dreamed of, and so call me selfish or what you want. I hope I get to do that for the rest of my life. And so, you just hope that you get next year, and next year I'm sure I'm going to hope I get the year after that. But I know eventually it won't be there forever. But I just hope I get more of it. So I'm sure most racers are that way. It's hard once you start. It's hard to stop. So
it's an addiction.
Yeah, it's an addiction.
Awesome guest question from the balcony. Thank you. Talk about the campers walking through the campground on Thursday. Talk about meeting people. Talk about fans. Talk about the experience of suddenly, you're running baby grands at South Sound to now you walk up to somebody's campground and you tell them who you are and you make their day. Yeah.
No, very odd. It's very cool, don't get me wrong, to walk up and feel like somebody's wowed by you, like you're somebody. But then you go home and, like, great example, Dolores, my girlfriend's walking around there with us as we're doing this, and she's like, whatever, you guys go do your thing, you weirdo, making, people, offering autographs to people and stuff. Because to her, I'm just Eric. Like, she's known me for 10 years and, and just known me since I was, like, 10 years old. So, to her, people like, family and friends, I'm just Eric or Bubba or whatever they call me. But to walk up and have somebody act like you're someone, it's different. But I know that, like, every time I do that kind of thing and, say that walking through the campground at Sonoma, all I can think of is when I was in their shoes and we were here years ago. I mean, I can't tell you how many hours I stood out there getting blistered in the sun up against the gate waiting on whatever driver would walk by, backpack guys, and I would get their autograph, and that was the coolest thing to me. I mean, I would sit at that gate for 6 hours a day at a cup race and just waiting for somebody that was important, one of those guys I idolized, to just give me an ounce of their time. Now, why that was so important to me, I don't know, but it was as a fan. And, now I've seen the switch to where I see those guys in the pits and I'm thinking, okay, they're just another human. But now I'm walking through, say, the campground and just talking to these people who are literally in the exact same position I was 5 years ago as a race fan. And now the roles have reversed, and it's surreal. I feel really grateful. But to me, I just see it as an opportunity to, and I always refer back to my 10-year-old self, whatever you want to call it. It's an opportunity for me to give somebody else exactly what that younger version of me would have wanted at the time, in their position, their role. Having kids, like Caleb, we've had this kid named Caleb at our shop now a couple times, and his dad always thanks me for sitting there talking to him for a few hours. And all I'm thinking of is the things I would have done at that kid's age to do that, I mean, I couldn't find somebody to give me 5 minutes, let alone 3 hours. So if he wants 3 hours, I'm going to give him 3 hours. You know, it's what takes so little for me goes so above and beyond for others. And it sounds almost, you know, like full of myself to say it that way, or, you know, and I don't want to come off as not humble, but when people start making it a point that what you're doing is valuable to them, at the end of the day, I look back and go, well, that took nothing to do. Going up and spending 5 minutes to sign some autographs and say thank you, that was nothing. And to them, it was a thing they're going to talk about the whole way home. And so it's just cool to think that I now have a little bit of that power to give something to the fans that I would have wanted when I was there. And that's all it is. So I try to do that, whether it's throwing kids in the race car when they walk up to it because you know that nobody else is going to want them to touch it, you know, or inviting them to the shop, or, you know, whatever it is, sending people free merchandise, sending them hero cards when they DM me on Instagram, or even all the time. I just have people text me and I'll sit there for an hour bouncing back, and they're just like, man, I got to be honest, nobody's ever texted me back. And it just doesn't take anything to do it. So I don't get why more people don't, is all. Yeah. So.
Cool. Thank you, Eric.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Not a problem.
All right. Let's break up shop here.
Yes, sir.
Very good, man.
Yeah. No, I get that. Absolutely. It's a cool place.